what are some of the main challenges you're seeing these organizations face when they're trying to transition their workforces back into the office?
Yeah, so this is something that we're working on a lot at the moment. Obviously, a lot of companies in the last 6 months encouraging people to come back, trying to figure out what the right configuration is. Do they have anchor days? Do they have a minimum number of days that people come back? And people struggling with low participation in return to the office, low density, etc. Broadly speaking, we've seen a few things from a data perspective. One is we saw collaboration overhead rise quite a bit when organizations went remote. You had to have more recurring meetings, more check-ins to kind of proactively drive communication and connection across the organization. And counterintuitively, I think you would have expected that when people return to the office, you'd see sort of a dip in collaboration, that it would go back to normal. But Michael Arena, I think, recently pointed out that there's a collaboration avalanche, I think he terms it, and we see that from a data perspective as well. And the underlying reason for that, we believe, is that when remote work started, people instituted a new way of working. I think just from a personal experience, we're on Zoom a lot more, we're connecting a lot more over all these tools all the time, and that is a layer of workflow that is instituted in organizations now. Come return to the office and a little bit more face time, that way of working is still there, but you have all of the serendipitous connection that you get in the office, all of the people that you wouldn't have otherwise connected with when you were remote. And now you're face to face, you're seeing them at lunch or at the water cooler. And so you get another rise in collaboration. So we definitely see what Michael Arena reported, a lot more collaboration, an explosion of collaboration, people, I think, struggling to find time to do focused individual work outside of that challenge. And then I think the other challenge that we see is an issue with in-office density. So what happened in the remote period is a lot of people moved out of big cities into places where the cost of living was lower. For example, they didn't have to be in San Francisco, New York, or London, and now with return to the office, a lot of those people have settled outside of those cities, and they don't want to move back. And so there's an issue with having a density of network in the office as well. And we've looked at that pretty closely. What we see is, if you look at people's collaborative networks, who they email, who they meet, who they chat, who they most work with, and you look at when they're in the office, we're seeing in many cases they're only together in the office with 20 to 30% of the people that they actually work with. And as a result, they're on Zoom all day in the office, and working with people on the other side of the country or on the other side of the world. And I think that causes a bit of frustration when you return to the office in that case. And I think very related to that, there's the ways of work have changed substantially. And one simple example of that is that there just aren't enough meeting rooms anymore. There are just a lot more 1 or 2 person Zoom calls where you're chatting to people somewhere else, and offices aren't configured for that. They're open plan. People want to get just have their heads down in an open plan space. They don't feel comfortable taking calls, etc. And so we hear a lot of people kind of struggling to find the right space to get things done and preferring to work at home as a result of that. So those are major issues I think a lot of organizations are contending with, and they're seeing in surveys, in some cases, negative feedback about the return to office program. And I think reducing some of that friction will help resolve some of that reticence to return.
In this series, we will be speaking to a range of senior leaders who are pushing a data-driven and digital HR agenda. Make sure that you subscribe via your podcast app of choice, and also via our YouTube channel for free and regular interviews with the digital HR leaders of the future.